Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast, sponsored by Dabble, where you can win 5,000 times your money this season. I'm Jim Coventry. Today's show is including, of course, giving my top reactions to Super Bowl 60. Now, before we get started here, Dabble isn't just another DFS app. It's the ultimate social platform where you can connect with other fantasy sports lovers. Dabble lets you win big. You can win up to 5,000 times your money this season. Starting with Dabble is easy. New users get $25 free when signing up. No deposit necessary. Check out the link in the episode description below to download Dabble now. All right, instant reaction number one. And is it really any other reaction? Yeah, guess what? Seattle Seahawks 29, New England Patriots 13. Oh, well, it wasn't the most interesting or exciting Super Bowl we've had, but we had a game at least, right? All right. So that said, first half, I guess let's just go through the first half. We'll go through the second half and the accolades after that. By the time I'm going to that point, we'll know who the MVP is. We'll see what shakes down with that. In the first half here, there were a number of bets I gave people in this game today. The one that I gave on some radio stations was bet over 7.5 punts. That one cashed before halftime. I don't know what the total number was, but it sailed over the number. Unfortunately, I knew this would be a game where the offenses would have a hard time moving the ball. Of course, the second half got a little bit off the rails. We'll talk about that later. But first half was a punt fest for sure. Seattle ran 39 offensive plays for 182 yards in the first half, while only 22 plays and 52 yards for the Patriots. It was an ugly first half for New England. Seattle defensively was dominant, but Sam Darnold, let's start with Seattle in that first half. It was Ken Walker stealing the day because Sam Darnold did not have it going on early. Get to him in a second, but Ken Walker, explosive runs, and we talked about this. Look, I thought that New England, with 2 weeks to prepare, would have an answer for setting an edge to keep Walker from getting outside. We did note that New England was not a good outside run defense all year, but we thought with 2 weeks to prepare and no Zach Charbonnet that it would have been a point of emphasis. It was not, and it was something. Now, maybe it's because, like I said, the linebackers for the Patriots do play downhill better than they play laterally, so it may have just been a personnel issue. But Ken Walker exploited it over and over and over, looking great. Again, 100 scrimmage yards in the first half. We had that 6-yard catch and to go to 94 yards rushing. And Ken Walker definitely was the reason why this game had such a wonderful start. Again, all field goals in the first half. But as the game went, we saw that halftime, we were looking at 9-0 on 3 field goals. And another prop that I talked about in the air, and I should have put on the sheet that I shared with people, was over 1.5 field goals for Jason Myers, 5 of them. So all that said, but otherwise, Sam Darnold in the first half blitzed often. It was insane how much pressure he's getting. 9 of 22 for 88 yards. Now, we talked about this in the pregame. I thought there'd be a lot of zone. And I got to rewatch all 22. You know, you get the party and you got people over and, you know, really see the TV copy doesn't show you as much as you want. But I thought Cooper Kupp would have a lot of opportunities in the middle of the field. Well, yeah, he was the leading receiver, 4 for 44 in the first half, and he had that little drop. It would have had him near 50 yards. But all that said, it was, again, a very uneventful first half, aside from Ken Walker, who was a superstar stud in the half. New England, like I said, only 52 yards and a half. Drake May, 6 of 11 for 48 yards. We knew the outside receivers would struggle. We were hopeful that Hunter Henry and Stephon Diggs can get going. That didn't materialize. Kayshon Boutte had a 21-yard catch. Demario Douglas, first half, at 2 for 17. Stevenson, we said it would be a very tough day to run the ball on the Seattle defense, and that's exactly what happened. Stevenson, 7 for 23 in the first half, did catch a 7-yard pass. But again, we knew they were never going to sustain offense. So the first half itself, just again, it was field goals and a punt fest, worked out well. Seattle loved that type of game, though. I'm sure they wanted touchdowns, but to know that they were in control in that first half, it worked out really well. Now, I thought that what was interesting was, you know, each team comes in now with a scripted first 15. Josh McDaniels never been that coach where you come out with those first 15 plays and you're blown away by him. But would have liked to. I see him try something crazy, and maybe because you thought the game would be close, you didn't want to get nuts. But I think if they watched film on this, they really should have kind of gone to the bag of tricks a little bit. They really didn't, and it probably was to their detriment. You know, no guts, no glory. I think a little more along the lines of that. But Seattle, as I said, they played a smart game. They played a very smart game. Darnold got away with a couple. Didn't end up throwing any interceptions because played with a lead. Second half was real nice for him. They got no pressure on him in the second half because they were in great shape. So beautiful there. But again, the first half, very uneventful. And we will talk about the second half reactions after we take a short break. All right. Instant reaction number two, the second half of the game, a little more eventful than the first. So, when we began to see some scoring in the second half, it wasn't right away, of course. And we had the third quarter, of course, the Patriots right away, 3-and-out. And then Seattle grinds out a drive. They go up 12-0. And at that point, the game is kind of over. You're at the point, it's not 2 touchdowns, but it's past that 10-point mark where and I know New England ended up getting 2 touchdowns, but to think the game was competitive, to think they would score 2 touchdowns when it was 12-0, that seemed rough. If they kept it at 9-0, there's a world where they could have gotten a touchdown, a field goal, and had a chance. But I really think that field goal about 5 minutes into the third quarter, that really did it for Seattle. And then, of course, we get into the fourth quarter, still 12-0. Drake May had fumbled, though, at the end of the third quarter, and that really that was it. The fumble was it because instantly in the fourth quarter, 5 plays later, Seattle got the back-breaking touchdown to go up 19-0. And then, of course, you get garbage time. And here I am telling people, bet the under on New England 20.5. It went to 19.5 in some books. I said you could bet that down a little bit. And now he starts to get nervous. And you hear me talk about this all the time. It's called the subliminal factor. And it's when a team in their brains, they know they won the game, and the coaches will tell you, keep playing hard. They're still dangerous. But you know how that works. We see it all the time. The human factor lets in, and all of a sudden, oh, wow, New England offense is rolling. Mac Hollins, 2 big catches and a touchdown, 19-7. 12.5 minutes left. They got us a ball game. Well, not exactly, but that's how it looks shortly. Drake May does toss an interception. They were starting to drive the ball a little bit. Again, if they were going to take advantage of Seattle, who, again, maybe had emotionally taken their foot off the gas, Drake May was starting to engineer a drive, but the interception was greedy. It was a deeper downfield middle pass. It was too early to need to do that, but it is what it is. But that interception at that point, if New England had a prayer, it was at that point, probably about 8 minutes or so left in the game. It's at that point where it evaporated. Jason Myers comes on, kicks that 5th field goal to go 22-7. So there's all that. And then, then you have the late touchdown by the Patriots, and that's about it. At the end of the day, not the game we wanted, but it was, great. I want to give Seattle a lot of credit here. Seattle was the best team here. We knew going in they were the best team. I said if they played 10 times, I thought the Patriots would win 3, and I still hold to that. Maybe after watching it, I might make it 8-2. Moving the ball was a real problem. The scenario was going to have to be that New England would have to have a special game on defense. So probably 8-2 would have been more realistic if they played 10 times. I probably moved back on that a little bit. So, but all that said, it was wonderful season for Seattle. Outstanding defense. Clint Kubiak was a masterful coach. Kenneth Walker had a wonderful game. Sam Darnold, look, I won't throw shade on him here. He won a Super Bowl. Congratulations to Sam Darnold. So happy for the young man. He's been through so much, and to won this, it can't be understated how wonderful that man has to feel right now. So that, again, just very excited for Sam Darnold. They didn't need him in this game, which ended up working out. So his numbers ended up 19 of 38, 50% completions, 202 and a touchdown. So that worked out there. The big player for the game ended up being Kenneth Walker. We said he had 94 rushing yards at the half, ends up at $135. A holding call keeps him from about 180 and a touchdown. Added some receiving yards to go over 160 scrimmage. Kenneth Walker was great in this game, took advantage of a defense that didn't have an answer for him. So wonderful job there. Cooper Kupp ended up leading the team with 61 yards. He had 44 in the first half, ended up with 12 targets too, led the team with that. We talked again. I said it earlier. We said in the zones, he would be the one getting open. When the pass rush came, he'd be the outlet. AJ Barner did get the touchdown, had a wonderful game for him as well. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Look, I said this, and this was no indictment on Smith and Jigba, but I said Vrabel played for this dude named Bill Belichick, and they were really good at limiting a team's number one option and saying, beat us with someone else. And I know Smith and Jigba left the game for a concussion check, but 4 for 27 on 10 targets. And again, no shade on Smith and Jigba. Does he care? No. His team won a Super Bowl. It's really all that matters. But if you were investing in Smith and Jigba from a prop perspective, it didn't go well. Even if he had been on the field the entire time, I don't think that would have changed much differently. The Patriots side, look, Mac Hollins garbaged it up late, 4 for 78 and a touchdown. If you had him in a tournament, you were super excited to get that out of Mac Hollins. Otherwise, Demario Douglas, second leading receiver, 5 for 45, just wasn't to be done that day. Diggs only 3 catches, Hunter Henry 3 catches. Neither had the impact we wanted. So all that said, Drake May had a tough playoffs. He was sacked 5 times in the first 3 games, 6 times in this game, plenty of turnovers. So the offseason question for May is going to be fairly simple. We don't ignore the schedule that New England had. I told everybody in the preseason, bet the over on New England. That was the bet. Them and the 49ers on the over. But now in the playoffs, and May did win games, but he needs receiver help more than he has. He took a lot of sacks, made a lot of bad plays. So now the offseason question will be, which Drake May are we getting? And I think, look, I think he's a very good player. I don't think he's that, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he's that bucket. His season said, second runner-up MVP, whatever, runner-up behind Matthew Stafford, fine. He's a very good player. No shade on Drake May. And he still can improve. But I think he needs help. He needs more help. Like, at least Stafford had Puka and he had Devontae Adams. So, but Stafford's always been, a baller as it was. So you give him that. So all that said, props that I gave out either on the document I shared with some or publicly, we hit 10-3. For the most part, the process on the game was right. Now, in terms of betting, I've been telling people I really don't like betting ATS. And so I gave people 2 ATS lines. I did say Patriots was 4.5, but I also said just take the Seahawks alternate line -2.5. It's juiced up to -186, but that covers you in case it's a field goal game. So that was kind of a wash because I don't play ATS anymore because you always get these referees flags and this and that. But I told you the best bet was the Patriots under the team total 20.5, and obviously with 13 points sailed under that. We went Sam Darnold under 230 passing yards. He went 202. Now a lot of that was because they didn't have to be aggressive in the second half, but again, that hit there. We did go, is Kenneth, let me see here, Kenneth Walker the MVP? It's going to look like we're going to see that right now. Kenneth Walker did win the MVP of the Super Bowl. He deserved it. Kenneth Walker deserved the Super Bowl. I don't know how you could give it to a quarterback who completed 50% of his passes, only threw for 202. The one touchdown at least gave him a slight chance, but I'm glad they got this right. Too often we'll see a quarterback win when it really isn't the quarterback who is the most valuable player. If you watch this game, there is no question in your mind that Kenneth Walker was the most valuable player in this game, and it wasn't close. So great job by those who voted to get this right for Kenneth Walker, who hits free agency. I said earlier we took Jackson Smith and Jigba under the 94.5 yards. He ended up with 27, so no issue there. Kenneth Walker, we took 2 props on him, 1-1. We went over 23 receiving yards, but he ended up going with 26. We went over 2 receptions. It was 2 exactly, and that's because the game script didn't need the throw to him more than they did. Now we got lucky on Travion Henderson because he caught a pass at the end of the game. We had Henderson over a half a reception, which he caught 3, but we had him over 6 yards on that last play of the game. He was able to end the day with 26 receiving yards. So we also about laddering him up. So if you laddered him up, you did fine there. What did we lose? Smith and Jigba over 6.5 receptions. We missed that one. Diggs over 4.5 receptions. Missed that. Now 3 more hits though. Well, I should say 5. The Jason Myers over 1.5 field goals. The punts over 7.5. Drake May. This one I got lucky. I locked this in under 38.5 rush yards. Now, if you bet it today, you lost it. But I had him under 38.5 rushing yards, 37. He had a few runs, didn't quite get there. But if you got the late line, you won that one. But if you bet it when I told you early, then you cashed there. And then also the last one, I told people to bet Kenneth Walker over the longest rush of 14.5. But I told people also ladder that one up to 20. And he had a 30-yard run in that game. He had a couple of long runs. And so it was a great day for props. If you followed along, me and tailed me 10-3 there. And again, that biggest bet that we preached all week. Patriots team total over 20.5. Seattle's going to get a chance to run it back in a tough NFC next year. It'll be fun to watch that. That defense and Mike McDonald, what a wonderful group they were. Would like to see if Rashid Shaheed, if they bring him back. If they do, I'd like to see him more integrated in the offense. Definitely they can use a right guard, but otherwise not much to complain about. Seattle is the champion of the world. New England next year, the schedule will be significantly tougher. They'll get a first place schedule. Defensively, very impressive team. Mike Vrabel, one of my favorite coaches that I can ever imagine out there. I do think, again, I threw a little shade on Drake May, but he's going to be a fine NFL quarterback. He's definitely above average. I guess I don't think he's that mega star, but you know what? He's a star. He's a star, and he's at least, and I don't know the numbers, but he's at least a top 10 quarterback, and maybe he's even top 8, and maybe a tick above that. So no real shade there. Drake May is going to be fine. He's fun to watch. They'll get him help. They'll get him receiving help. Right now, the group they have, it's too limited of a group, and they'll need to get a few things fixed on the interior offensive line. Confident that'll happen. But it's been a great season. If you hung out with me for one show or 25 of them on Sundays, appreciate every moment you spent with me. It meant a lot. I will be doing RotoWire podcasts every week on the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast Network. I definitely will be doing videos, so I will post on the X at Jim Coventry NFL. You can catch up. I will keep you ready for free agency. I'll be studying the players for the NFL draft, and I'll give you takes on that. We will get you set all off season long. I hope you had a wonderful season. I hope you had a wonderful Super Bowl, even though the game was as competitive as we want. Everybody, see you next time. And again, enjoy the fallout of Super Bowl 60. It was Seattle Seahawks 29, New England Patriots 13, the MVP, Kenneth Walker.